Good afternoon. Welcome once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. We absolutely love bringing this to you. Again, it's Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Remember to like, share, and comment on Facebook, as well as hit that subscribe button and tell your friends about us over on YouTube, because we absolutely love bringing this to you. But obviously, it's you, the fan, that helps keep us motivated, keep us going. And today we're going to talk about the Vancouver Canucks prospects, who in about 3 hours' time, the puck will be dropping up in Penticton for their prospects game. Matt, welcome to the show. Friday afternoon. What's happening?
No, not a whole lot. It's pretty pumped to see how all these young guys that we've been talking about over the summer. They're finally getting back on the ice. And especially when it comes to Elias Pettersson and Jonathan Dahlen and all those guys, man, I cannot wait to see them dominate this weekend.
Yeah, definitely going to be a couple of fun games to watch, as the Canucks prospects, if you don't know, are playing the Winnipeg Jets prospects. And all the big prospects are pretty much playing, other than Quentin Hughes, who went back to Michigan State, so he's ineligible to play, as well as defenseman Jet Wu, who has a minor injury. But, man, the lineup looks stacked, and I'm excited to see this talent. What did you hear about tonight's lineup so far?
Yeah, so the Canucks released the lineup for tonight. The top line, man, this is going to be fun to watch. Jonathan Dahlen, Elias Pettersson, and Cole Lind. You know, I talk about extreme firepower coming from this top line. I cannot wait to see what these guys can do together, especially Dahlen and Pettersson. I want to see how fast that chemistry starts to develop. These guys are good friends off the ice. And Cole Lind, it gets the special assignment of playing with both of those guys. And with Lind's talent level, I think he'll really gel with those two guys.
Yeah, that's a lot of offense on that top line tonight. But again, guys like Jonathan Dahlen, I'm curious to see what he does. There's some talk that he might have an outside chance at making this team. And, of course, Elias Pettersson has a huge chance of making this team, whether it's as center or as wing. So I'm excited to see that. Why don't you go through the rest of the lineup for us and touch on a few other prospect notes that you got there?
All right. So the second line will be Petrus Palmu, Adam Gaudette, and Zach McEwen. Gaudette, unfortunately, he doesn't get to play with Pettersson or Dahlen, but I'm intrigued to see Petrus Palmu. I think he was the best Canuck forward at the summer inter-squad game. And Zach McEwen had a decent first year in Utica. And it'll be good to see how he goes through. The third line will be Jonah Gadovic, Tanner McMaster, and Lucas Jasek. Gadovic, who missed the summer inter-squad game with an injury, is back on the ice. I like to see how he goes. I think he's going to be physical if we look at him at the World Juniors and be a net front presence. Tanner McMaster, I thought he had a pretty good showing at the summer inter-squad game, being a sign-on. So it'll be intriguing to see how he does. And Lucas Jasek, who I had in my top 10 prospects, had a great showing with Utica towards the end of the year. And it'd be interesting to see if he continue his success. And the fourth line tonight, the best name in hockey, Nando Egenberger.
Get this guy a sponsorship.
Yeah, it's literally the best name in hockey, along with Anthony Salentry and Reed Gardner. So all three of those guys were just brought in for the tournament. Nando Egenberger, they had tried to bring him in over the summer for the game that they played, but he was dealing with an injury. But this guy played with Davos in Switzerland last year, and he's still a 99-year birth. So very young. He went through the entire draft without being drafted. I believe he'll be playing with the Oshawa Generals this year. And he's 6'2", so another power forward, same size as Jonah Gadovic. And the other two guys I haven't heard a whole lot about, but Eggenberger is the guy that I'll be looking to see how he does.
Nando sells itself, and Eggenberger can go everywhere. That's the part of the NHL's all-name team for sure. Now, why don't you touch on the defense, and we'll get into the starting goaltender tonight. And for all you fans that are out there that are listening to this, if you're not a Canucks fan, leave us with some of your comments about your favorite prospects. Just down in the comments below here. Let us know who you're rooting for. Let us know what makes you excited about your team. Matt, bring it away.
Yeah, and also there will be other prospect tournaments going on throughout the league. So if you want to talk about what players you're most intrigued to see with your team's tournament, let us know.
And if your team has a player's name like Nando Eggenberger, please let us know.
So the defense is the top pairing will be Olli Juolevi and Jalen Chatfield. Juolevi didn't have the greatest showing at last year's Young Stars tournament, but I think a year in Finland. And the big thing is coming off the back surgery over the summer. He's supposed to be fully healthy, so we'll see once he starts to get hit and everything how he responds. And Jalen Chatfield was the big surprise from last year's camp. We'll see. We're going along like the Chris Tanev sort of lines. The second line will be Guillaume Brisebois and Jager Dirk, who played in college last year, had 28 points in 30 games. They will be paired together. Brisebois is the guy that Jim Benning's really high on. I'd like to see a little bit more from him just because I haven't been overly impressed with what I've seen so far. And the bottom pairing are both guys that they've brought in just for the tournament. And Jacob Berhani, who had 30 points in 67 games for Kingston in the OHL, and Garrett McFadden, who played for Guelph in the OHL, had 44 points in 68 games. Both of those guys will fill out that bottom pairing. And Michael DiPietro will get the start in net. There are a couple scratches for this game. That will be Owen Hardy, who played for the Vancouver Giants this past year. Isaac Nurse, who was another guy that played over the summer in that inter-squad game. And Caleb Bulks, who will be the youngest guy at this tournament, a 2000 birth, played for the Giants last year. And the other goalie, the backup goalie, Ivan Kolbakov, who played in the East Coast Hockey League last year, had a .500 record at 11-11 in 22 games and a .902 save percentage. So we'll see if any of those guys get into the second game, but those guys will be the healthy scratches for today.
Well, Kolbakov also got in a handful of AHL games, but went winless. Michael DiPietro, brand new goaltender mask, all painted up with Canuck colors. What do you think? And is he prepping for a big year with Utica?
Or Windsor. Yeah, he's heading back to
the OHL, eh?
I know, yeah. One more year. Next year he'll be in Utica. But yeah, this guy's primed to be Canada's starting goaltender at the World Juniors. At the summer game, he was very athletic. Sometimes he overplayed the puck a little bit, but he also had some great, amazing saves. So I'm hoping he just settles into the net, just plays to his strengths, and doesn't get caught going all over the place. But I am very intrigued to see how he does, and with that back end. I can't wait to see some of these guys, especially Juolevi. This is the guy that I think if he has a good camp and good preseason games, I like to see an outside shot of him making the team just because that back end is starving for offensive defensemen. And that's exactly what he was drafted for, 5th overall a couple of years ago. We've seen all the arguments for the other guys the Canucks should have taken in that draft, but defenseman is like it's sort of tough to be patient because we know defensemen usually take longer to develop. But I'm hoping he has a good camp and that he can start to prove some of us wrong with taking him that high in the draft.
Well, outside of all the players that most of you know that you've seen in our top 10 Vancouver Canucks prospects list, etc., and Michael DiPietro, who, of course, was the third-string goalie for Canada at the World Championships, the three players that absolutely intrigued me the most going into this and going into main camp have to be Jalen Chatfield, just because he had such a great main camp last year. He almost had more points in the exhibition games he played with the big team last year than he had all season long with Utica. So he might be one of those rare players that's absolutely amazing at the NHL level, but not so much in the minor league level. So get this guy some good players to play with. Another guy is, you already mentioned him, Guillaume Brisebois, who, of course, more than Jim Benning's high on him. I know a lot of Canuck brass are really high on this guy. I'd like to see, a little bit more out of him. And the man-child up front, Jonah Gadjevich, just because how good he was for Team Canada, the World Juniors, back in December before he got hurt in junior. We haven't seen him much since. Hopefully his injuries have healed. But if he has a good camp, it'd be interesting to see if he pushes for a spot in the big club. But because you never know. He reminds me a lot of Milan Lucic when he came out of Vancouver into the Boston Bruins organization. I think Jonah Gadjevich has the potential to have that kind of impact. And the Canucks absolutely have too many forwards, too many defensemen right now. You already mentioned Olevi. I saw an article in the paper about how the Canucks, if Olevi is primed to make this team, on how they're going to have to waive both Viega and Houghton to make room for him if they only go with 7 defense. So any final touches on the game tonight or any of the prospects before we sign off today?
There's something I brought up off air. Jason Botchford, who has just joined the Athletic. I think if there is a website that you should be subscribed to, it is Athletic, and especially following Jason Botchford. I think this guy's his style is super entertaining, and it is probably one of the smartest guys in Canuck media. But he did a story on Elias Pettersson. I think there was just a few quotes. Because people have been mentioning about his weight being super light still. But the thing is, he's just like, that doesn't matter to me. It's like, that's never been the big thing about my game. His game is putting the puck in the net and making others around him better. And he's been improving his shot throughout last year and over the off season, spending at least 15 minutes after each practice, just working on his one-timers and all the top scoring areas. And I think we'll see that pay big dividends with Besser and Pettersson. I'd like to see both on this year's power play on each wing. And also, he is earning the new nickname Alien, is apparently the nickname coming out there for his outworldly skills on the ice. So
I don't think he'll stick. I don't. The fans will create a nickname for him.
It's not the flow. Yeah, it's not the flow with Besser. It's like that is probably the perfect comparison for one of the best nicknames. But that's about it. But yeah, it's like we want to see these top prospects finally get out on the ice tonight, and especially Elias Pettersson. It's like he wants that pressure this year. He wants to put up the points. He just has to go out and do it now.
And, of course, like we said before, if you're not a Canucks fan, make sure that you talk about your team below right here on the comments on either YouTube or Facebook. We're really looking forward to getting some interaction with you other fans out there. We know there's lots of other teams that our fans like to watch. And, hey, your team's probably playing in a round robin this weekend. As well, with main camp starting next week. I've seen a lot of the Canuck veterans posting their time over at English Bay. Patrick Demko had a fun one where he said he's hanging out with Michael Carcone and he thinks Nikolai Goldobin because he panned over to Goldobin, who was just playing on his cell phone. But they're all in town. They're all ready to start. They're itching to play. They're itching to show what they can do. There's going to be a lot of competition in the Canucks camp, as well as every team's camp around the NHL. So preseason's just around the corner. One of my favorite times of the year, and super exciting. So again, that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of B&B Hockey Talk. We'll be back next Monday to talk more about the prospects and the start of main camps that are upcoming. So make sure you tune us in. Thanks again, guys. Have a great and safe weekend, and we'll see you next week.